These are the most insane punishments during World War II. Some of the most horrific penalties meted out by the Axis countries during World War II were unthinkable in their cruelty and inhumanity. Torture, hunger, and medical experiments were all used against detainees in Nazi concentration camps. Prisoners of war in Japan were compelled to engage in live burials or bayonet practice. Waterboarding, solitary imprisonment, and beatings were all used on Allied prisoners. How did these heinous punishments come to be, and to what extreme were people punished? Medical experiments. One of the most heinous forms of torture ever inflicted on humanity was the Nazi practice of human experimentation. As part of its wartime activities, the Third Reich subjected prisoners of war, inmates of concentration camps, and even innocent civilians to a variety of horrific experiments. Sickening methods such as injecting victims with lethal toxins or infected blood, and then forcing them to undergo sterilizations, were used on the victims. The tests were undertaken for no other reason than to fulfill the sadistic whims of Nazi doctors. They were of no scientific use whatsoever. The Nazis' horrific human experimentation serves as a disturbing reminder of the depths of inhumanity that can be reached during times of conflict. Those who made it through these tests usually did so with severe bodily and mental scarring, while many others did not. Horror and dread can be triggered by thinking about the unimaginable anguish and cruelty inflicted on these defenseless victims. The fact that these atrocities were committed and their perpetrators were never held accountable is a sobering reminder of the evil that exists in the world. Forced labor. During World War II, the victims of forced labor were primarily Jews, Roma, Slavs, and other ethnic minorities deemed inferior by the Nazis. The working conditions in the labor camps were harsh and terrible. Many prisoners were overworked and beaten or killed for minor infractions. Medical experimentation on prisoners, as well as the use of slave labor in factories and on farms, were examples of forced labor. The Nazis also employed an Ostarbeiter system, in which inmates from occupied nations were brought to Germany to labor in factories and farms. This labor was employed to replace German troops who had been deployed to the front lines. The Ostarbeiter were subjected to atrocities such as insufficient food, overcrowding, and cruel punishments. For millions of individuals, forced labor during World War II was a tragedy. It was a harsh and inhumane form of exploitation that killed incalculable numbers of people. The victims of forced labor must be remembered and their experiences conveyed so that the world does not forget the crimes they endured. Execution by firing squad. During World War II, firing squad execution, this act was frequently carried out in a public plaza in front of a huge throng of onlookers. The executioner and his aides would line up the condemned inmates, sometimes a dozen at a time, and force them to kneel facing the wall. These are orders to the inmates before the order was given, heightening the horror among those awaiting their doom. The sights and sounds of the execution were frequently horrifying, with the victims' bodies twitching and convulsing as bullets ripped through their skin. The scent of gunpowder and blood filled the air, and the sight of the inmates' lifeless bodies lying in pools of their own blood was something that many onlookers will never forget. Exile and forced deportation. Exile and forced deportation were dreadful realities for many people during World War II. Millions of innocent individuals were forcibly removed from their homes, separated from their families, and sent to labor in death camps. These people were deprived of their rights, property, dignity, and in some cases, lives. Jews were gathered up, deported, and transferred to concentration camps, where they were subjected to terrible treatment and made to perform hard labor. Many Jews were on forced deportation linger to this day. Victims of this brutal and terrible conduct will never be forgotten. Their suffering serves as a reminder to us all of the value of human rights and the necessity to defend them. Hey, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can receive more future updates from us, and also leave a comment your thoughts on this video.